really is. It's the thing that separates us from a much tougher, crueler way of life. And yeah, it might not have started in Greece, but you could make a really strong case that it was perfected there. So the big question is how? How did this rocky, kind of uninviting piece of land on the edge of Europe become the very crucible for Western civilization? Well, to get to the answer, we've got to look at this incredible 5,000-year cycle. It really is a fascinating paradox when you stop and think about it. You've got this harsh, difficult land, and then you have this just immense global impact. I mean, this one little peninsula, with all its islands, created a culture that, and you're about to see just how much, has shaped the world we all live in today. It's wild. And this list, it just scratches the surface. But it really shows you how deep that influence goes. I mean, just think about it for a second. The very idea of democracy, the foundations of all Western philosophy, the idea of studying history as its own subject, even something as fun as the Olympic Games. All of it, it's all part of this incredible inheritance from the Greeks. Honestly, our world would be completely unrecognizable without these things.
So that's the big question, right? How on earth did they do it? How did this one culture achieve so much? Well, the answer is found in this amazing 5,000-year cycle, a pattern of rise, fall, and then rebirth.
All right, so let's dive in. Our story really kicks off, as so many of these big stories do, with a total collapse. We're talking about the great Bronze Age civilizations of the Mediterranean. They just vanished. The whole region was plunged into what we call a dark age. But, you know, out of that darkness, something completely new, something revolutionary was about to bubble up.
Okay, so the first part of this cycle starts way back with the really sophisticated Minoans on the island of Crete. After them, you get the Mycenaeans. They're the ones who gave us the first written form of the Greek language. But then, bam, around 1200 BC, their entire world just disappears in this massive, catastrophic collapse. I mean, for 400 years, writing itself was completely lost. But then, a comeback, a resurgence. In the first Olympic Games in 776 BC, that was the signal. A new dawn was breaking, what we now call the Archaic Age.
So what was so special about this new era? What made it so revolutionary? Well, it all comes down to one word, the polis. You see, while all their neighbors were building these huge, centralized empires, the Greeks did something totally different. They organized themselves into hundreds of fiercely independent, self-governing city-states. And that decentralized structure, that was the secret sauce. It created this intense competition, this incredible hotbed of innovation. It was basically a giant laboratory for new ideas about how to run a society.
And it was in one of those city-states, the famous one, Athens, that this absolutely radical idea was born. Democracy. Demos for people, kratos for rule. The idea that the power to govern should be in the hands of the citizens themselves. I mean, it was a political experiment unlike anything the world had seen, and it would, no exaggeration, change the course of human history.
And at the very same time, something else was happening, a huge intellectual shift. Instead of just relying on myths and gods to explain how the world worked, the Greeks started to use reason and critical thinking. This love of wisdom, philosophy, is what gave us absolute giants like Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. These guys literally laid the groundwork for all of Western thought.
But of course, right when Greek culture is hitting its absolute creative peak, it faces a threat that could wipe it all out: the Persian Empire. We're talking the biggest empire the world had ever seen up to that point, turned its gaze westward, right towards these small and, let's be honest, often bickering Greek city-states. So, they managed to survive the Persian threat, which is a story in itself. But what do? They go right back to their constant infighting, and all that squabbling left them vulnerable. A new power was rising up in the north, a power that wouldn't just conquer Greece, but would then take that newfound unity and use it to spread Greek culture across the entire known world.
And this was all made possible by one guy, Philip II of Macedon. He completely revolutionized warfare. He created a system. First, he introduced the sarissa, this monster of a pike, 18 feet long. To hold it with two hands, he had to make the shield smaller, and this let his infantry form the legendary phalanx, just an impenetrable wall of spear points moving as one. Then he combined that with his elite companion shock cavalry. The whole system working together was just unbeatable for a long time.
And the person who would end up wielding this incredible war machine? Well, that was Philip's own son, a kid who was tutored by Aristotle himself, a man we now know as Alexander the Great. He took that army his father built and just unleashed it on the Persian Empire.
And just to give you a sense of what he was up against, at the final decisive battle, the Battle of Gaugamela, his army was outnumbered at least 2-1, and they were fighting on a wide open plain, no hills, no narrow passes to help them out. On paper, it should have been an absolutely impossible fight.
And yet, he won. I mean, this guy is one of the very, very few commanders in all of history who can say they never lost a single battle. His military genius was just on another level, simply unparalleled.
But here's the thing, Alexander's real legacy, his true legacy, wasn't about conquest. It was about culture. In his wake, Greek became the common language all across the Near East. The cities he founded, like the famous Alexandria in Egypt, they became these world-renowned centers of learning. Think of the Great Library of Alexandria. He basically kicked off what we call the Hellenistic Age, this 1,000-year period where Greek culture was just dominant.
And so, the cycle turns once again. After Alexander dies, his massive empire breaks apart, and at the same time, a new power is rising over in the west, Rome. Eventually, the flexible Roman legions proved to be more effective than the Macedonian phalanx, and by 146 BC, it was over. Greek independence was lost.
But this is where the story gets really interesting. It takes this fascinating twist. The Roman poet Horace, he put it perfectly. He said, "Captive Greece captured her rude conqueror." I mean, think about that. Militarily, yeah, Rome won. But culturally, Greece conquered Rome, big time.
Just look at the gods. The Romans basically adopted and assimilated the entire Greek pantheon. Zeus became Jupiter, Ares became Mars, and so on down the line. All across the Roman Empire, Greek art, Greek philosophy, the Greek language, these became the ultimate status symbols. It was the mark of a truly educated person. So, in a weird way, Rome ended up being this incredibly powerful new vehicle for spreading Greek ideas even further across the world.
And even when the Western Roman Empire finally fell, that legacy still didn't die. The eastern half, with its capital at Constantinople, it kept going. This empire, which we call the Byzantine Empire, was Greek in its language and its culture. It basically acted like a time capsule, preserving all this Greco-Roman heritage for another 1,000 years.
But well, no empire lasts forever, right? In 1453, after standing for 1,000 years, the massive walls of Constantinople finally fell to the Ottoman Turks. And this event, it wasn't just the end of an empire. For the Greek people, it was the beginning of another long, long dark age.
400 years. Just let that sink in. That's how long Greece spent under Ottoman rule. For centuries, the very people who had given the world democracy and philosophy, they were now a subject people living inside a vast empire.
And life under this new rule was harsh. It wasn't just about paying a special tax for not being Muslim. The Greeks also faced the absolutely brutal tribute of children. This meant boys were forcibly taken from their families to be conscripted into the Sultan's elite troops, the Janissaries. Girls could be taken for the royal harem. It was just a period of profound decline and incredible hardship. But that memory, the memory of that ancient past, it never completely died out. And so, in 1821, inspired by those exact ideals of democracy and freedom that their ancestors had pioneered, the Greeks rose up. It was a long, brutal war of independence, but with some help from European powers who were also inspired by that classical past, the modern nation of Greece was finally born.
So you see the pattern: rise, fall, and rebirth. From the Bronze Age to the Classical Age, from Alexander's explosion of culture to its careful preservation by Rome and then Byzantium, through multiple dark ages and into a modern rebirth. It's really one of the most complete and vivid pictures of the cycle of civilization that we have anywhere in history. An absolutely remarkable story that, you have to believe, is still unfolding even today.